nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. This is a meeting of the school board in public for the purpose of conducting school corporation business. It is not to be considered a public community meeting. There will be time for public participation as indicated on the agenda. Also, all board members were provided with background information on the various items on the agenda in preparation for the meeting. We will begin with public comment forms are over here by Attorney Elwood. Anybody would like to address the board at the proper time, fill out a form and return it to the board table, and we will bring you up at that appropriate time of the meeting. Okay, we will begin with item 2.01, Esports Presentation. Mr. DiPasquale.
Well, thank you, Dr. Alnes and the board for having us, and Mr. Elwood. We're presenting about esports, which little did I know in my career as an educator, I'd be talking to you about esports as an activity that is becoming very popular, and also something that is being recognized not only at a very individual level, but at a school curriculum level and as a collegiate level. And highly sought after in the STEM. So today we're going to present to you about Portage Esports and the creation of the esports community that we have, and that it's just even more than just esports itself, which is pretty exciting. So with me I have today Nate Thompson, who's a business teacher at Portage High School, and also Nicholas Politano, who's a special education teacher. And to give you a little bit of a background of how this all got started was over several years of going to Summer of E-Learning, I got to meet and get to know Nate, even though he was teaching in another school district, and we talked about esports and the potentiality of esports. And then a couple of years ago, Nick came on board at Portage High School as a special ed teacher. And as we got to talk, because he was also applying before he became a special ed teacher, he was applying for the IT department, was his interest in online gaming and the community of online gaming. And technology itself. So when he came to Portage High School, him and I started talking about esports. He was the club sponsor for the tabletop gaming, which then kind of evolved into something else. And then just this past summer, heard a rumor that Nate was going to be potentially joining us as a teacher at Portage High School, and I was so excited because of Nate, and he'll explain more of his ties with esports and with the state of Indiana. So if we go to the next slide. The growth and need for STEM prepared workforce, that is something that I know all of you have heard as you talk to the Portage development and the economic community, and you talk to people in Ameriplex. The students with the STEM background, science, technology, engineering, and math background, while we consider ourselves a STEAM district, that the arts is still very much so a part of it, that emphasis about STEM is very important. And as those students, I wanted you guys to see one of these, as those students who are very interested in esports, they kind of consider the careers they're looking into. You'll see game design, computer science, business, engineering, graphic design, but you'll also see that all those other careers don't just go away. So many of them still communications, the arts. So the nice thing about this is it's all encompassing. If you go to the next slide. So it's gotten to a point at which I don't want to kind of age myself a little bit, that we're actually talking about that universities right now are literally working really hard to attract those STEM students by offering scholarships and facilities in the area of esports. This picture by itself doesn't mean much, but if you would know, that is actually a whole wing. That's just one room in a whole wing over at Syracuse. That they actually built a brand new athletics facility, and they actually now have a whole wing just dedicated to collegiate esports, which is pretty incredible. And as we were preparing this presentation, which makes it pretty exciting, go to the next slide, is actually just announced, it was in the Northwest Indiana Times as of February 17th, that Purdue Northwest is actually offering esports as a varsity athletic team for this coming fall. So that's how important this is becoming, and I'm really excited that we're I won't say completely ahead of the game, but we were definitely in conversations and getting this rolling that we're going to stay with the pace of that. So I'm going to have Nick come on up if we go to the next slide, and he can talk about why esports.
All right, again, thanks for having us. A main thing that we're looking at with esports is, well, to start off with, when I came in here last year, I noticed that there was a need in the school to build a sense of community with gaming and esports in general, because I would look at all the different kids, just even working west, going all the way through east. A lot of kids like games, and it's something that they can share as a passion, and that's why I sponsored on Tabletop Games Club. Now, we had a couple days where we ran over with the anime club and just kind of joined forces because we realized that there was an overlap there. Now, unfortunately, the teacher sponsoring anime club did step down at the end of last year. So this year, I was like, okay, well, we're not going to just leave them hanging. Let's just go whole hog on the thing. Let's do the whole thing, right? So we joined in Video Game Club, Tabletop Games Club, Anime Club to make the Portage Gaming and Creative Media community. And we wanted to emphasize that sense of community for our kids that are interested in multiple topics, our kids that are a little bit more marginalized or disaffected in the community. They don't have that sense of representation like the kids that want to play the typically recognized sports, football, baseball, basketball, etc., and don't have other sorts of representation within the other clubs. So we wanted to give them a place to be, and that's what we're doing once a week. And from that, we're getting to really organize the three pillars that we're hoping to achieve here, which is inclusion, innovation, and leadership. From our pool, basically, that we've got here for the Portage Gaming and Creative Media community, we can go on towards esports as a competitive branch. Now, when we're looking at that in terms of sports, could you go to the next slide, please? We are looking at sports not just as like a branch of an athletic department, but as a parallel to the athletic department, because esports encompasses multiple different games and multiple different types of teams, similar to how athletics has the branches and all the different breakdown of sports that we have. Now, all of these different teams are going to be fostering their own senses of teamwork, our own senses of, thank you for that, of self-determination with our kids. They get to pick which teams that they're wanting to play in, which ones they're going to specialize in, and all of the different post-secondary options. The colleges are offering scholarships for multiple different games because many of them are very popular and for different reasons in different regions. You can go on to the next slide. If I can talk about this really quickly, you can kind of see the breakdown that we have there, where we have the Portage Gaming Creative Media community branching out to the non-competitive club areas, and then we have the actual esports. And partnering with Ison, which is what Nate's going to talk about here shortly, we're going to focus on some or mainly these 6 games here: League of Legends, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Forza Motorsport 7, Rocket League, Overwatch, and Hearthstone, and they are on all different gaming platforms. But what they have in common is that each of them will have different team sizes. Each of them will have their own. We're hoping for varsity, and if we have enough participation, probably JV. They're all going to follow the existing athletic rules that we have for our athletics department. So kids are going to have to maintain, I believe it's 5 passing classes on top of attendance. So we're hoping that this is also going to help bolster those kids' desire to perform well academically, not just, hey, let's show up to school to play games. So we're trying to link it in all across the field. And like I said, team sizes are going to vary per game. Now, at this point, we do need to talk a little bit about Ison, which is where Nate comes into play.
Hey,
Hello. Hi.
Nate Thompson. I'm a teacher here. What I did is I was one of the first esports coaches in the country. At my old district, we were one of the first in the state, one of the first in the country. And something we noticed is that there were very little in the way of state governances. So we went ahead, and myself and John Robertson from Tipton, Indiana, created the Indiana High School Esports Network. And with that, we were able to tap into all the existing schools in the state, in which we had our first season last fall 2019. We had 14 schools on board. We just started our season for the spring, and we're already at 44 schools. In projected for fall 2020, we're looking at 120 schools. Just reaching out to schools, talking about next year. And that does include schools in our area. So schools already on board are Munster, Hobart, Gary Westside, Kankakee Valley, if you want to consider them close. And then Penn, Elkhart, East Noble finish out the northern schools. So we do have quite a few schools, and larger schools, smaller schools. We've broken it up into a division, a double A division. Anything up to 1,100 students is in single A. Anything over 1,100 students is double A. And then we're competing in 7 basic games. So we have League of Legends, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Forza Motorsport 7, Rocket League, Overwatch, and Hearthstone. We chose those games specifically because it gives low barriers of entry for most schools. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate can be played on the Nintendo Switch, which allows students a very low barrier of entry to play esports for their high school. Forza Motorsport 7 we brought on because, again, you can use a video game console for it instead of a high-power computer. And with that video game console, it gives a low barrier of entry for schools. And schools can have up to 10 drivers participating because it is a racing game, and this is Indiana. We really wanted to focus on the traditional Indiana sports. And we're also looking at, for next fall and next winter, bringing in NBA 2K, as the Pacers 2K organization has expressed interest in working with us to make that happen. So we do have a bunch of the traditional kind of sports games as well.
So just to kind of wrap things up is that we wanted to bring this, I asked Dr. Allen to give us an opportunity to bring it to you because it's very new conceptually, and I think for a lot of us to wrap our brains around the idea of esports and how that's going to figure in. And so a lot of those questions of esports and making sure that the athletic policies come into play. I've already talked with Fred Joseph and Mike Pointer in regards to working cooperatively with them, making sure that we're partnering with them in that concept, that we're not sniping each other in any way or taking away from each other's programs. I've been very fortunate to go to a few of the gatherings and to see 60, 70 kids, and there's anywhere from 40 to 70 kids at any given gathering of students that you would not normally see coming to Portage High School, and especially giving 3 hours, 4 hours of their time at Portage High School, and being in a social community and interacting. And the principal sometimes kicks in with me, or the administrator kicks in me, where I'm chasing after kids trying to keep them calm. But then I'm also thinking they're here and they're enjoying school and they're here having fun, and they're building friendships that they would not normally build because they would be gaming at home. And so to have somebody that they're partner up was pretty incredible. We've been really blessed to work cooperatively with Mrs. Williams in regards to locating some ways to creatively fund, because with anything you do, it's not free. So we're acquiring some money to get our Xbox consoles. What those two gentlemen so humbly didn't mention to you is that they don't even look at just the gaming part of it. What they did is we could go out and buy $2,000, $3,000 computers and be up and running, but they said, no, we want the components for 16 machines, and we're going to step by step teach the kids to build these high-powered computers so that they're not only getting the game time, they're also getting the training and the understanding of what it takes to build those gaming computers that require high capacity. And that's pretty incredible. And these two gentlemen, I mean this very sincerely, are incredible in regards to their humility about this, how humble they are, that it's sometimes herding cats, and they do an incredible job of getting kids excited about the program. And it's a great dynamic because Nate's our very logical process. Let's step by step. Nick is definitely our gung-ho, let's go charge this, and so they work very cooperatively together, and we've been very lucky. So I appreciate your support in regards to this. Dr. Allen has your support, and we hope to come back here in a little while and update you on the progress of this, and hopefully we'll be able in a year or two, or even sooner, come back and tell you that we're whipping on some schools and beating them in this sport. So, thank you so much.
Great.
I have a question. If you're okay with that.
Yes.
So how do students compete?
So it's online.
Yeah.
So it's
So,
online.
I mean,
So,
they
yeah.
do it after school, they compete? Like
Yeah.
you may say it's Portage versus Munster on a given day, or is it just the whole
Yeah,
group?
so what happens is with ISIN, we schedule them out ahead of time so they'll know their matches for the 8-week season.
Okay.
Everything's played online except for the championship. We do have in-person championships. So we bring, the two final schools into a central location. They play against each other,
Okay.
and we crown a state champion
For esports.
for esports.
That is
Yep, that's
awesome.
For
awesome.
Smash
So when you
Brothers.
say
Or
this-
for Forza.
So when you say they play against each other, is it individual or is it school by school? Is it a team of?
It
X
depends on
amount
the
of
game.
kids?
So, like with Smash Brothers, there's a 1v1 element and a 2v2 element, and it's kind of like a track meet, tennis meet setup. So it goes by a point system. Yeah, you can win your 1v1 match, but your school could still conceivably lose. But it gives them that sense of pride that I beat that person, and then I helped our school win that meet.
Yeah. Now, once we get a bit more on our materials acquisition side of things, when we get our computers actually set up, the games that revolve around those more on the Overwatch and League of Legends side are more larger team-based games. Like League of Legends is 5v5, Overwatch is
6v6.
6v6. So at that point, we will have actual school team versus school team, and then that's a more typical sports style setup for that.
It's amazing. I think we got roughly 7,500 kids in the corporation, and they all don't respond to the same kind of outreach, and to have this is outstanding.
Yeah, it is cool, and I'll tell you, and I'm sure Mr. Elwood, because we're getting inundated with a lot of college materials at our homes for our kids, and I'm amazed that they all list esports as an opportunity from the university level. So us being in the forefront of this, and I appreciate you guys taking that initiative, does give our kids a little bit of a leg up on even some of those opportunities,
Well,
I
it's
would
pretty
think.
scary when I'm looking at my son and going, hey, maybe we should go upstairs and play some video games, because we made you a big scholarship.
I know.
Right.
It kind of freaks me out a little
Right.
bit. But the truth is.
I'm kind of glad
it's
Anthony
true.
didn't know about this.
Yeah,
So I heard you mention 120 schools.
Yeah.
How many students of our students are interested at this point? Did you mention?
Well,
that?
we get about anywhere between 50 and.
It depends on how many show up on any given day. Our Schoology group of kids interested is sitting at about 85-ish.
Wow.
But
Once we start competing, that number will jump drastically.
yeah,
Once they see actual competition going on, that number will just skyrocket. We fully expect 10% of the student population at the very least.
yeah.
That's awesome. That really is.
He's gonna.
It's amazing.
That's awesome.
And I think
Good
you
job.
probably heard, we're the only one in Porter County. There's one in Lake County,
There's three.
3 in Lake County, 3 in Lake County, yes.
Okay.
And as Mr. Thompson said, at the start of the year, it was 14 across the state.
Yep.
Now it's up to 44, anticipating somewhere around 120, so, and you guys hit it on the head. This is a great opportunity, but most importantly, it's showing that parallel between our sports teams, showing just as much validity to this, and kids who would normally go home and play online and not necessarily associate after school, get out of school as soon as they possibly can to get home and get in front of those games, and every week they have a place, and as you said, that social community. So I can't thank you guys enough for this. This has been a long time coming, something that, there have been times where trying to find what it is that we can bring forward to those kids who just aren't naturally as engaged in after-school activities because we've not tapped their interest. So we're tapping that interest, and we've got the lead right here to make sure that our kids have that opportunity. So it's exciting.
And once again, I just want to make sure that you guys hear this. It's important. I am very thankful of Fred Joseph and Mike Pointer being so supportive of it. Because I've heard other districts that initial conversation started, and there was some hesitancy just because who are you drawing, what are you pulling from, and right away both Mike and Fred were very much so, hey, how can we help?
Great.
And that was fantastic, and I want to make sure that they hear that not only personally but publicly, that very appreciative of that support, because that initial conversation, I was like, ooh, this might be a little interesting, but they were like, absolutely, what can we do to help? And these gentlemen right away said, let's make sure that we're in line with what they're doing, so that we're making sure that our kids have to follow the same rules. So it's pretty exciting.
Awesome, great.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, next we have our good news report.
We have video.
Okay, awesome.
Good evening, this is Camille with this week's Good News Report. The kindergarten students at Kyle Elementary celebrated differences by reading Tacky the Penguin stories. Tacky dresses and acts differently than other penguins, so the students participated in a wacky Tacky Day to celebrate being unique. Congratulations to the PHS band students who recently competed at a solo and an ensemble and brought back 13 group gold medals and 31 soloist gold medals. The 7th grade students at Bagley Middle School honored Black History Month by attending a performance of the MLK Project, the Fight for Civil Rights. After the performance, the students asked questions of the performers regarding acting, civil rights, and racism. The PHS ROTC students created and sent Valentine's Day cards to a 104-year-old World War II veteran. The veteran asked for the cards to help brighten his Valentine's Day, and our cadets were willing to help. The students in Miss Brown's class at Central Elementary hosted their own version of the TV show Shark Tank. This persuasive writing assignment required that they develop an idea for a product and present 3 reasons why people need it. PHS Academia's Cup team recently took first place overall at Lloyd High School meet. Additionally, they received first place in essay, interview, science, social studies, 2nd place in literature, and 3rd place in speech. Great job to the team members, Simeon Bright and Loco Reese, for leading the team. Bagley's Middle School 8th grade students recently participated in a career day. Teachers hosted speakers from various career fields, and students could choose their sessions. Speakers included a millwright, military personnel, electrician, mechanic, dental hygienist, social worker, paralegal, police officer, veterinarian, and more. The kindergarten students at Pearson Elementary learned about circle stories with books by Laura Numeroff. The students read the books, sequence an event in the story, and discussed characters and settings. The best part was that Miss Gear family made pancakes for her students after reading If You Give a Pig a Pancake. Congratulations to PHS Junior Bradley Conrad and Senior Damari Dancy on advancing to the state wrestling tournament. Bradley ended up an amazing season on Friday night, and Damari took 4th in the state on Saturday. The students at Willow Creek Middle School learned about compassion, respect during a convocation that focused on culture within school and community. Following a performance by PHS Jazz Band, the students learned how culture impacted the music genre throughout time. They also enjoyed several performances of tradition, Mexican dances, including a performance by our own teachers, Mr. and Mrs. Lynch. PHS students enrolled in the PNW TRIO program attended the United States Hispanic Leadership Institute Student Leadership Conference in Chicago. While there, the students listened to prominent keynote speakers and learned about financial aid, college, entrance exams, scholarships, and more. The students and staff and families at Jones Elementary and South Haven Elementary received new benches last week. Thanks to their plastic bottle collection campaign, each school received 3 new benches made of recycled plastic. The teachers at Bagley Middle School have been learning ways to incorporate the social and emotional competence into their classrooms. During staff meetings, everyone takes a little time to participate in an SLE activity. Recently included 6 degrees of separations in the power of words. The second grade students at Central Elementary turned their school into a wax museum of inventors last week. The students each researched an inventor and created a display for the result of the students in the school to enjoy. A group of our high school students learned about guided meditation last week. The exercise, which was led by Mr. Krause, which helps students learn how to ease their anxiety and keep calm when confronted with stressful situations. The PHS biomedical science students watched a live stream of an open heart surgery last week. The students watched as doctors perform an aortic valve replacement on a 30-year-old male. Throughout the experience, students could ask questions of the anesthesiologist, cardiologist, perfusionist, and scrub nurses. The students and staff at Willow Creek Middle School returned from their President's Day break to beautiful painted inspirational rocks scattered around outside the building. They don't know who left the rocks, but they appreciate the words of encouragement. The staff at Central Elementary School went all out for their One School, One Book family night. Their Charlie and Chocolate Factory theme night was a great way for everyone to wrap up the reading project. Mr. Woolver's fifth grade class at Sailor Elementary spent some time coding spheros in the Innovative Learning Lab. The students used block coding to get their spheros to follow the line all the way to the X at the end. One of our STEM champs at South Haven Elementary created the first student-designed 3D printed project. In the school's Innovative Learning Lab, Brianna designed a turtle using a Tinkercad and worked with their ITS Miss Alito to bring her designs to life. And now for our upcoming events. Jones Elementary School is hosting their annual talent show this Wednesday at 6:30 in the gymnasium. Willow Creek Middle School Builders Club is hosting a blood drive this Thursday from 3 o'clock to 7 p.m. in the all-purpose room. The Portage High School Business Professionals of America is hosting a dodgeball tournament this Friday at 3 p.m. in the West Gym. Senior night for the boys basketball is this Friday at 7 p.m. Finally, good luck to our girl gymnastics team who will be competing at sectionals this Saturday. And goodbye.
As always, a lot of good news. Thank you for that update. Okay, we'll move on. Are there any adjustments to the agenda by the board? If not, we'll move on to our superintendent consent agenda, which contains the personnel report, the donation report, claims policy, facility use, and our strategic plan. Oh, these are the strategic plan goals 1, 2, 3, and 4 represented. Do we have a motion to approve the superintendent consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Finley?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Clancy? Yes. Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to the board consent agenda, which has the minutes of the February 10th, 2020 discussion meeting, minutes of the executive session of February 19th, 2020.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February the 10th and an executive session on February 19th, 2020.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Clancy? Yes. Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Trustee Finley?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to our board development committee reports. Trustee Maleta, Park Department, Buildings, Ground Innovation, and Finance. Finance has not met yet. Buildings and Grounds, I'll defer that to Mr. Williams at the appropriate time. Park Department, Park Board, not much going on this time of year other than getting ready for some of their spring and summer sports. We did have a kind of a cool thing. There was a family just recently moved to Portage from Chicago. Their daughter's Girl Scouts. Well, she doesn't go to Portage Township schools, but she did volunteer as one of her projects is going to be putting in a butterfly garden around the barn at Countryside Park. as a project. So she came in and she had a full PowerPoint, a presentation of what she's gonna do and how she's gonna do it, how she's gonna maintain it, how she's going to raise funds to do it. So it was pretty neat. So it's pretty cool to see, again, young people in the community doing and volunteering, and it'll be a nice enhancement to that park. Trustee Vasquez, Portage Township Education Foundation and Food Pantry and Policy.
All of that.
All of that.
The first thing I want to announce is, or report, is that the 500 Club monthly drawing continues. And I believe, congratulations to Cindy, she was one of our winners, so congratulations. And a thank you letter. We thank our superintendent for sending a thank you letter to the board. And it was read during the meeting where you thanked the board for $23,925, which came from the profits for Major Saver. And you already approved the fact that Major Saver will be another fundraiser sometime in November, scheduled for November, so thank you for that. Plans are underway for the special event, celebration fundraiser that's scheduled on April the 30th. We will be asking and looking for sponsors, volunteers, basket donations, and of course we encourage all who can attend to make this another success. There will be food and beverages will be sold, as well as some dancing, some music. There will be a business night that the PTEF will be participating in. That will be held on Thursday, April the 16th at Woodland Park. We're also thankful to the Porter County Sheriff's Department because they will be donating 70 Stop the Bleed kits to our Portage Township schools. And Mrs. Olson will let us know what items will be needed so that we can make additional donations. Initially, the PTEF was scheduled to donate all of the money for that Stop the Bleed, but now the Porter County Sheriff's Department is going to do that. Another reminder that the grant applications are due by next Monday, March the 2nd. So we encourage all Portage Township employees to submit an application. And the next meeting will be scheduled, or has been scheduled for March the 10th. The food pantry met on the 19th, and that was the same day that we had our board retreat, so I was not able to attend, but I will report once I get the minutes from that meeting. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Trustee Clancy, policy board plan?
So I do have an update about the policy meeting we had last week. So we met to go over our bylaws. So we kind of talked about what we can and can't meet in executive session for, as well as went over some basic background information, what authority the board members have and powers, the roles of the officers, board ethics, things like that. We did make a few changes to some of our bylaws, which are actually listed later in our agenda tonight. So we did review board member ethics and just changed some of the language in there. We reviewed the agenda bylaw. Again, just changing some language, just kind of updating it to say the agenda will be posted online rather than mailed. Public participation at board meetings, there was a typo saying that speakers had 30 minutes to speak instead of 3, so we we
Glad you
corrected
caught
that
that.
to 3.
It's supposed to be a cumulative.
Correct. Yeah. And then the use of school board email by the board, we changed the wording in here again, just to state that proper channels should be used for board members communicating with employees. We looked at our board plan and made some changes there, and we'll have more information on that for the board in March. As far as some of the policies we went over, the Latin Honors policy, our summer hours policy, the 2020 Census resolution, which is on the agenda later as well, and the format that we have our policies in. We looked at possibly changing the format to be posted online, and Dr. Allen has provided us with some examples of that as well. So we should have more to come in March as well.
Great, you guys were busy. Thank you. Trustee Findley, redevelopment and legislative.
Absolutely. Good evening again, everyone. There are no updates for the redevelopment commission at this time. Our next meeting is this week, Thursday, so I'll have a report for you on the March the 9th meeting. Lots going on at the State House. Here comes the fun part. For a reminder, we have been invited to hear Dr. Jennifer McCormick, who's our Indiana Superintendent of Public Instruction, speak at River Forest, February 27th at 6 p.m. I want to say thank you to our Indiana School Board Association, our state senators and representatives for hosting school board members on February 11th at the State House in Indianapolis. Local school board members thought it was informative and helpful for us to connect with our elected officials. There are a lot of bills that are going on right now, and some of them are very important, so I'm going to call to action some things that we need to take on as board members. The third reading deadline of bills in the second chamber is March the 3rd, with conference committee activity to follow. So the targeted conclusion of this session is March the 11th, so that's coming up really quick here. So some call to actions to bills. We have House Bill 1222. It's amended by the Senate Elections Committee yesterday, and well, it was limited last week, Thursday, and it would eliminate the ability of school corporations to run a referendum in a primary or special election. Few school corporations are contained entirely within a municipality, so school corporations will be left with only a general election every 2 years if they so choose to pass a referendum. So right now, we're Indiana School Board Association, as well as the Indiana State Teachers Association, is asking that the senators oppose this bill. So they want us to make our voices heard regarding this as well. A couple more bills that are hot. House Bill 1204. This is the most important bill to K-12 public education because this bill provides funding dollars totaling approximately $30 million in support of public education during this current budget biennium and includes appropriate and necessary regulations of virtual charter schools. So please email or call your state senator to ask them to support the passage of all sections of House Bill 1204. And the last one, the call to action, is House Bill 1002. This bill will eliminate a statutory requirement that state summative scores must be used for teacher evaluation and allows local governing bodies to decide whether these scores should be used in this manner. So please communicate with your senator as well to ask their support for House Bill 1002. And that's all I have for legislative at this time.
Great, thank you. Thank you for representing us down in Indianapolis, too. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me. Appreciate it.
Trustee Williams, Building and Grounds and Innovation and Wellness.
Thank you. Myself, President Maletta, Dr. Stevens, Mr. Wilson, a couple other people, I'm drawing a blank on the names, who met over at the West building, looked at the pool, and it is in not good shape through no fault of anybody, just years of wear and tear on it. And so there was talk about potential uses going forward. I believe there's going to be a study to report back at a later time, but it's good information to get over and take a look at it. So more to come.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to old business. The approval to award the paving bid. Mr. Elwood.
Want me to do it, or?
Go ahead.
Okay. So Mr. LeBlanc is here with Alliance. We have reviewed the bids that were submitted, and we recommend awarding the bid to Walsh and Kelly, Inc., as they were the lowest responsive and responsible bid at $1,522,291. Additionally, we recommend that all alternates, numbers 1 through 13, for a total bid of $395,280 be accepted for a contract total amount of $1,917,571.
What was our budget that we had set aside for this paving project? You recall?
The bond was $2 million.
2.5 million, and we were budgeting $2 million for the actual
So
project.
we came in just under that.
We came in right where we needed to.
That's great. Yeah, so we
Yes.
need a motion to approve the, to award the paving bid to Walsh and Kelly.
I'll make a motion to award the bid. Motion Kelly.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? What about timelines?
Well, the timeline's set up so that the work begins as soon as school's out, but there's still gonna be some coordination efforts because never are the schools empty, so. But the contractors understand that, and it was well presented at the pre-bid walkthrough. I wouldn't be surprised if things got started sooner, if we could, especially here at the high school. There's areas where we can do some work and take an area of the parking lot and not make any hampering any of the circulation outside. So, but we haven't discussed specific schedule, but the outline in the specifications is once school starts, go, or I'm sorry, once school stops, to go.
Okay, very good. Any other questions or
Well,
discussion?
Can you refresh my memory, the schools that would be affected the most would be?
Every school.
Every school.
All the alternates incorporate the work at every school.
Which is obviously very much so needed, and I want to commend the finance team alongside with our internal team and Mark, and also Buildings and Grounds, because the whole concept was making sure we got this out to bid at a time that allowed for, you know, as people's work was slowing down, so we could be on the front end and get a more competitive opportunity. So I think that helped also with getting our bid right at budget.
Very good. Any other questions? If not, would you call the roll, please?
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Clancy? Yes. Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Trustee Finley?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to new business. Item 8.01, discussion and approval of the revisions to the 2020-2021 school year calendar. Dr. Alanis.
So as I had shared with the board, this was in collaboration with the Teachers Association. We had previously approved a 2-year calendar, as you're aware, and when the other members of Porter County approved their calendars, they started a week prior to us. Being a good partner in this effort to educate our career and tech ed students as well as our special needs students, we did not want to be an outlier in this, and that was something that the Teachers Association understood and helped us to generate how to best meet the needs of our students and make some adjustments along the way. Through that time, they did also ask us to reconsider when our spring break was. At first, the teachers had asked, can we keep spring break where we had it originally? And then through further discussion, a lot of our educators and support staff have their own children in surrounding districts, so it was best to also adjust spring break to match everyone else. I don't anticipate this happening in the future, as we have decided collectively as a unit in the county that moving forward, we're gonna be building all of these calendars together to make sure that these types of hiccups don't occur. So with that, I just wanna thank the Teachers Association because they were very helpful in understanding the need to be flexible. It did cause some additional situations, and then of course we will have Mrs. Deepers-Lowy and the interns make sure they're getting this out to families, but we wanted to get this done as soon as possible so that everyone has time to adjust if need be.
Do we have a motion to approve the revisions to the 2020-2021 school year calendar?
I make a motion to approve the revisions to the 2020-21 school year
I'll second.
We have
calendar.
a motion and a second. Any discussion? Can we put some talking points out of why we're changing it? And I be honest with you, I'm not crazy about it. Personally, I mean, the issue of the start date of school was probably the thing that I got the most calls from, and people were like all over last year that we were starting too soon. Now we moved it up even further, and I know there's going to be, the community's going to be really not real happy about that, and I personally kind of agree with that, just my opinion. But I think we're going to need to have some talking points for it because I think we're all going to hear about it.
Okay.
And then hopefully there's things we can do in the future to collaborate and hopefully it can reconsider that the hottest part of the year. And really, the way our weather's been, it's like the middle of the summer.
Right.
to be
And
starting
that's something
school.
that we, again, that's actually something that's already being discussed moving forward because the other districts are hearing the same concerns about earlier start date. So, that has been something that our teachers have continuously brought forward to us and why we had tried to scoot it back one more time. But we will absolutely have some talking points, and I think it would be good that you have those talking points, and then also if we can get that into the newsletter with the actual talking points, so that everyone understands why it's a priority to stay aligned. And, you know, the difficulty here is that the calendars of other corporations were approved towards the end of 19, so it just kind of unintentionally backed us into this, so. But we will do, moving forward, we will make sure that doesn't occur.
Great.
And I
thank you.
thought that, as the state was looking at moving that beginning date back.
They have talked about that a few times. I've not heard it in the most recent past, but they have talked about
Years ago, I
that,
remember
yes.
that conversation.
Yeah, there's been a lot of pushback, especially in the southern half of the state, to push that back. 'Cause it affects a lot of things, even for us up here, it affects tourism, you know, the water parks, the beach, I mean, it affects a lot of those things that it's their peak season, and, we're basically shutting them down, so to speak, during the week. And, so I think there's a lot more to it than just when we feel like we wanna start school. And, I know we tried here to be first out with our calendar, hoping others would follow, and that we weren't successful in that. So we probably ought to be looking at some alternatives in the future. If we can't get the cooperation, we should be, if there are things that we can do with our calendar being different.
Right.
Because again, I think, certainly up here, like I say, I know downstate, it's the Indiana State Fair is the big concern, which is why they're trying to change it, and they've not been real successful at it. But up here, you know, we've got a national park up here, and, there's a lot of tourism, et cetera, that happens in our part of the state, and particularly in our community, where that national park is at. So I think that those are things that we really do need to consider, because I don't think the public really likes this.
Right.
Well, and having numerous years as an educator, I remember when it was first changed and moved up was because ISTEP was
That's right.
in the fall, and so it kind of gave teachers and everyone else an opportunity to have a little bit more of instructional time. But now, since it's all now in April, and so it's time for change. It's really time for change.
Any other discussion? If not, would you call roll, please?
Trustee Finley?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Clancy, yes. Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Okay, next we have item 8.02, discussion and approval of the school board meeting schedule for 2020-2021.
So attached for you is the schedule for your consideration. And this includes our typical Mondays, with the exception of there are 2 Tuesdays on here. Well, actually, the one is the NSBA. That's also on your calendar as well. So I think we have a pretty good draft Mrs. Lindgren put together for us.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the school board meeting schedule for 2020-2021?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2021 school board meeting schedule.
Second?
We have a motion, a second, any discussion? If not, call roll, please.
Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Trustee Finley?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Clancy, yes.
Okay, we'll move on to item 8.03, recommendation and approval of extending the benchmark curriculum contract.
Attached, you have the implementation rollout plan for Benchmark. This includes the extension. If you recall, we wanted to get feedback from our educators and see where we were looking with the data, as Dr. Stevens has included for you. The 3-year extension would be $45.36 a student each year. The 6-year agreement drops it to $29.60. When we looked at the cost-benefit analysis of the training that we're providing our teachers, the cost savings to the families, and the overall price, as you can see, for 6 years is $696,000, whereas 3 years is over $1 million. It just makes most sense to go with the 6-year adoption. So that was what Dr. Stevens has recommended after discussing this with Mrs. Williams, and our Portage Association of Teachers.
Did Mr. Elwood have an opportunity to review the contract?
It is the same contract that was originally in place. It is just that extension piece, so that the first year price was honored and now rolled in to that 6 year.
And Mr. Elwood spent a lot of time renegotiating it last year.
Yes, he did.
I remember
Yes, you
that.
did.
I also want to mention, in times past, one thing that became a concern for the district was that 6 year adoptions, by the time you adopt something for 6 years, it is no longer a valid adoption because material just gets very old very quick. And now in the digital age, we have updates instantaneously to curriculum because it's all digital. So there is a significant difference because it's not in that format of a textbook where, you know, you've got current events that are no longer current as soon as you purchase something for social studies. So this, I think, is a new way of looking at this, being that we're 1-to-1, 6 to 12. Now I know that this is the elementary adoption, but as you're aware, we're also hybrid 1-to-1 at the elementary. K 1 and 2 have the iPads, 3, 4, and 5 have the Chromebooks, and in the event a teacher would like them to take them home, they are individually assigned to each kid. So with that being said, I think that Dr. Stevens' recommendation is definitely the right way to go for the cost savings and for what you get on a digital platform that used to not be possible.
Okay, do we have a recommendation, a motion to approve the recommendation approval of extending the benchmark curriculum contract?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? If not, would you call the roll, please?
Trustee Vasquez,
Yes.
Trustee Maleta,
Yes.
Trustee Clancy, yes. Trustee Williams,
Yes.
Trustee Finley.
Yes.
Next up, we have item 8.04, recommendation and approval of extending the Pearson curriculum contract.
So Dr. Stevens also updated for you the rollout plan for this. It includes that same extension opportunity that Mr. Elwood had even more difficult time getting in place, but it did occur. So the recommendation here is also for the 6 years at $29.60 a year per student. And I just think it's important to share here as well that you're talking about, let's see here, the 6 year for language arts is $144,000. It's $14 a student per year, whereas it's $15.49 a student for the 3 years. And then when you, the science, the only option was 6, and as well as the health. So that extension again is going along with our work with the teachers, and I just appreciate Dr. Stevens' work on getting this curriculum updated. As you are aware, when you looked at some of those spreadsheets in the past, it's been quite a while since we've been adopting new curriculum, and our teachers do appreciate it, and the feedback has been very informative for us to be able to make the recommendations.
I guess that would be my only question, is how much input did the teachers have?
The teachers sat on the committees that recommended the original materials, and then we have had, for instance, with the elementary program with Benchmark, we had full implementation this year, as well as some of those who were bringing in pieces. We kind of had a minimally, you need to do these components, and then other teachers who jumped in with the full pilot go straight forward. So there has been ongoing feedback. There has been continuous surveys. The materials were left out for a month. Mrs. Williams had worked with the surveying of the teachers. We worked through discussion with our teachers each month. The feedback of the curriculum teams that came together to select the materials has just been very positive throughout the duration. In particular with Pearson, we had some growing pains with Benchmark, but we have those all squared away. We went with the Benchmark series, that is the Benchmark Workshop, which is the new materials, and through that we've learned of the growing pains of other districts who have had the regular Benchmark Advanced, and we've come together with our district curriculum team and worked through those kinks, and people feel good about it.
So with both of these, how much PD, professional development, have the teachers been presented with? Is it during the summer, ongoing, online? Can you describe that?
There are the online opportunities to receive the professional development. There are a certain number of PD opportunities built into each of the contracts, and I can't recall the number of days off the top of my head, but we have since exhausted those number of planned PD days that come with the contract. But we also have teachers who are beginning to become kind of experts in certain sections of, or have just really worked with the material well, and they are sharing those in their professional learning communities on Late Start Wednesdays. We've had opportunities during the e-learning days where Pearson has come in and or Benchmark has come in. So we've exhausted all the planned days with the company, but we have a lot of good ongoing PD in our internal team that will continue to help us and will continue to sustain that PD throughout.
So are the instructional coaches involved in this internal planning and professional development?
They will be moving forward. At this point in time, we do have the one elementary coach. The secondary coach, we have one coach that goes between the two middle schools and the high school, and then one that's half-time at the high school. We have 2.5 coaches, and then they are also worked in with Mr. DiPasquale, so he does help with some of that coaching as well. So they will be moving forward. A part of those opportunities, they are supporting the digital platform side of things to make sure that the content is doing what it's intended to do and working alongside the teachers as need be. Right now, it's kind of in that troubleshooting stage.
Thank you.
I have one question, just to follow up what you just stated, Trustee Vasquez. So as the curriculum is going to change, because it will change, will we have to pay for additional training for those teacher leaders, or what's the plan for that?
So-
Because you won't have it right away, that
Correct.
feedback.
So at this point in time, the way that we have typically been able to work through these things is if we need a training reboot or there's a new content, we can get them to come out. Now, I'm not implying that that won't come with a fee. I think that if we use that sparingly, then they'll be willing to come out and share those pieces with us. But I think it's also important that to know that those digital professional developments are updated. And then we very well may say to our internal team, let's watch these PDs. If we've got additional questions or needs, we can contact Pearson directly and get a trainer out here. But some of it by that time might be something self-explanatory. So we'll just kind of have to keep the pulse of that along the way.
That's true. Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation and approval of extending the Pearson curriculum contract?
Oh, I'll make a motion to approve, extending the Pearson curriculum contract.
Second?
We have the motion to second. Any further discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Clancy? Yes. Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Trustee Finley?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Okay, next we have item 8.05, adoption of the 2020 census resolution.
Okay, this resolution attached, I just wanna mention, was something that came from Trustee Finley going downstairs, so if you kinda wanna explain that.
This is the 2020 Census Board, School Board resolution that has been asked for all the school boards across the entire state of Indiana to adopt. We have to talk about the census. The census is very important. It's important for our local, our state, our national resources, so that we can get the resources that we need for our community, our schools. And we just want to make sure that we're supporting the Indiana School Board Association, supporting our community with this, and by adopting this resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So this is resolution R3-2020, 2020 Census School Board Resolution. Whereas the decennial census occurs every 10 years to count every person residing in the United States and is fundamental to ensuring that all residents of our community have access to fair representation, essential services, and economic development. And whereas an accurate count of persons living in Portage in Porter County in the 2020 census will determine the representation of individuals, families, and communities in our local, state, and federal governments. Whereas the 2020 census count of children living in the Portage Township School Corporation District will be the basis of federal education funding allocated to our school corporation over the next 10 years, specifically federal programs serving our students living in poverty and students with disabilities. And whereas the populations that are prevalent in urban areas at high risk of being undercounted according to the U.S. Census Bureau include young children, people of color, low-income households, language, minority families, foreign-born residents, and households with limited internet access. And whereas children are more likely to be missed in the census count if they reside in the complex households that are common in urban areas, such as multi-generation households, extended families, and multifamily households. And whereas it is paramount for the school board, superintendent, principals, teachers, parent organizations, and all local leaders in the Portage Township School Corporation to communicate the importance of the Census 2020 to families and community members to ensure everyone is counted. Therefore, be it resolved that the Portage Township School Corporation will develop and adopt a plan of action ensuring a complete count of all students and their families residing within the school corporation on the 2020 census. Be it resolved, the plan of action will include but is not limited to providing and distributing information to our students, parents, and staff members of the importance of the U.S. Census and its role in federal funding and state representation through various communication channels employed by the school corporation, providing recommended curriculum to our students on the U.S. Census, promoting the involvement in the U.S. Census to community members at various school and community events, and hosting participation events on April 1st, 2020, U.S. Census Day. And be it further resolved, the Portage Township School Corporation is committed to working in partnership with the local civic, business, and community leaders and others to engage, educate, and count every resident within our local community in the 2020 census. This resolution is passed and adopted this day in 2020. Do we have a motion to approve Resolution R3-2020?
I make a motion to approve the 2020 census.
I'll second.
We have a motion
Resolution.
and a second. Any discussion? To reiterate what Dr. Finley, Board Member Finley mentioned, it is imperative that we get accurate counts. Technology makes it. There's a lot of people who are worried about the privacy of those counts. And I know I met with the Census Bureau a couple of months ago, and there's things in place. It's highly confidential. There's really no reason that every person should not be able to participate. They really have done a really nice job of putting that together. And I do think it's really important for us to, best way to get the parents to do this is to teach the kids.
Oh, yeah.
And get the kids to go home with some projects or whatever it might take as it relates to the sentencing, and get them to understand it. And that would be a great way to get our families to participate as well. So all the things that we do from a marketing standpoint and in the classroom are going to be really important for us
We
to
are
make sure we get
working
accurate counts.
directly with the Public Information Officer, Mr. Gonzalez, with the City of Portage. He's working directly in alignment with our teachers at the high school under the guidance of Mr. Stills and his team. Dr. Stevens is involved in that, as well as Mr. Wilson. And we have the activities, the curriculum that's already been provided. We will have our students involved in the community volunteer hours, as well as those who are of age to be able to participate in getting people to complete the census. They will also receive an hourly wage. They will be having the census training, and we're just going to continue to market that. There's already 2 marketing opportunities that went out on Peach Jar, making sure that everyone's aware that this is coming and the importance of it, and we'll continue to make those strides so that our kids are aware. I think that you're exactly right. I mean, if we've got opportunities for kids to bring something back and show that they did something, sit down with their parents, see what it is, talk their parent through it. We also talked about some other opportunities at different events that we have within our school community where we can have iPads available and students there to help. So we can advertise that and say, tonight at this event, we'll also have individuals on hand with iPads while you wait in line and complete your census.
Very good. Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, call roll, please.
Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Trustee Finley?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Clancy, yes.
We'll move on. Item 8.06, approval of the Menards request for easement. Dr. Alanis.
So, Mr. Mavrovich, who oversees buildings and grounds, was contacted by Menards. Attorney Elwood has been heavily involved in this situation to make sure that we have the proper documentation. This is a request of theirs. They need a specific 60 foot
60 feet.
clearance around the area of their building and in that area of the map, so that we have a no-build easement there, so that their gate, as they are going to be installing, would receive the proper approvals for them to be able to move forward with their gate. As a good community partner and neighbor, we don't plan to build anything where that is, so after Attorney Elwood's review, I'm bringing this to you for your approval so that Menards can move forward with their project.
So you have reviewed this, Mr. Elwood?
I have, and it's, as she indicated, it's simply a no-build easement, so we're not giving them access. It's just an agreement that we won't build there. There's no future plans to build there, so it just seemed like the right thing to do.
Is there an expiration on that? Let's say Menards goes out of business, or is this like an internal?
It's recorded on the property, so it
It
goes
is
with the
recorded.
property, yes.
Okay. Okay. We have a motion to approve the Menard request for easement.
Make a motion?
Second?
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? If not, call roll, please.
Trustee Finley?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Clancy, yes. Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to item 8.07, first reading of bylaws 0144.2, board member ethics, 0166 agenda, 0167.3 public participation of board meetings, 0167.5 use of school corporation electronic mail by board members. So what will constitute the first reading, Mr. Elwood? Do we have to read?
You just
any or
had it.
part of those?
No,
Or
you
we
just
did.
did. By title constitutes first reading, so no further actions needed until second reading.
Very good. Do we need any explanation? I think this is part of what you had given in your update.
Right,
Are
most
these-
of it is just some minor changes to the language, just things that needed to be updated. There isn't really anything that big in it, I didn't know. Trustee Vasquez, did you have any?
No, I think you explained it well, thank you.
Okay, so this will just come back as a second reading and then time for a vote? at that
Correct.
time.
Yes.
So, if you hadn't had a chance to read through these, please do before our next meeting. Item 8.08, Resolution R4 2020, compensation of the board.
So this is a continuation of the effort we took, started discussions last year. We noticed that it was required a bylaw change, which is unusual because state law only requires a policy. And so the last two meetings that we've read, a change in the bylaws, that's what we did, is removed it from the bylaws. This resolution keeps the salary the same at $2,000, and then it pays, there's an increased amount for each meeting and an increased amount for each committee meeting. I think it's going from $92 for a meeting to $112, and then from 56 to 62 for a committee.
52 to 62.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elwood. I will read the resolution of the School Board of Trustees of the Portage Township School Corporation affixing the compensation of the members of the School Board of Trustees. Whereas Indiana Code 20-26-4-7 provides School Board of Trustees may, by resolution, affix the compensation for its members at a rate not to exceed $2,000 per annum per diem and a per diem. And whereas pursuant to Indiana Code 20-25-3-3, said per diem may not exceed the per diem affixed for members of the Indianapolis City County Council. And whereas for the 2020 calendar year, the per diem affixed for members of the Indianapolis City County Council is $112 for each council meeting attended and $62 for each committee meeting attended. Now therefore be it resolved that the Portage Township School Board of Trustees does resolve that members of the School Board of Trustees shall receive compensation at the following rate. Members shall receive the annual compensation of $2,000. Members shall receive a per diem in the following amounts: $112 for each meeting of the board which the member attends, $62 for each committee meeting attended for which the member has appointed to serve. Compensation affixed under the resolution shall be payable in the same manner as the employees of the corporation. The rates affixed herein shall continue in such time as they may be amended by the board. passed and adopted by the School Board of Trustees on this day of 2020.
So it should also be noted that this is driven by the legislature. So what they did is they increased the Indianapolis City County Council amounts, giving the schools the ability to increase theirs to be consistent with that.
So yeah, it's kind of a odd setup that the Indianapolis City Council county sets school board pay. It's a very small increase, so it'd be $18 per meeting, regular meeting, and $10 for extra meetings. Those extra meetings, just for record, do not include the other meetings that the board participates in, such as Park Board, Portage Township Education Foundation, the Food Pantry Redevelopment Commission, etc. And if you notice, we do things like the work sessions, and we try to do we try to do those all in one day, so each meeting is not considered a separate meeting. So when we're having a regular board meeting, like today, we would try to lump the extra meetings on that same day, so as to save the district from paying for each individual meeting. Do we have a motion to approve resolution R4 2020 compensation of the board?
I will make a motion to approve R4 2020.
Second?
The motion and second. Any further discussion?
Yes, I'd just like to also add, and piggybacking off what you just stated and what Attorney Elwood just stated, there is talk at the state level, the legislative committee session that I went to earlier this month, they are talking about removing some of those statutes about it being surrounded, our pay being driven by Indianapolis. So that is even in discussion at the state legislature. So I just wanted to make you aware of that as well. It won't happen in this session, of course, because it's about to stop, but it's gonna come up in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Clancy, yes. Trustee Williams?
No.
Trustee Finley?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to superintendent reports.
I
Dr.
have
Alanis.
just a few items for you. First of all, the exit interview with the auditors is going to be February 27th at 4 o'clock in the conference room here at the administration building. I know Trustee Maleta is going to be there, but I wanted to make you all aware as well. Also, let's see here, we did meet just this week to get a brief update on the East Pool. And I will have a really solid update of the scope and budget on March 16th. After that point in time, I would like to schedule a meeting with the Buildings and Grounds and Innovation Committee. However, I would strongly encourage, if you would like to attend that, we can even do that if you'd like, maybe before, well, or after our second March meeting, so that you're here. So that everyone kind of gets that firsthand knowledge. If for some reason we can't make that happen, I can make sure we get good details to you. They are in the process, they've got the base drawings done, the existing conditions done, so the design itself is almost completed, working with Water Tech. Things are really shaping up, so I knew that that would be something to share with you. That's a good thing. We are currently off the stage for an official week. Everything is done in the auditorium, so no one to touch for an entire week, yes. And then we are ready to roll. So I want to thank Mr. Mavrovich and his team. I know that there's been a lot of departments who have had their hand in making sure this got done so that we could have the music host their competition, that many districts come from various areas to participate in the ISMA competition that weekend in March. And it's great, so good news there. I did want to share with you that the Porter County Education Services Executive Director, Mrs. Diane Massa, has officially provided us as the Board of Managers at the county level with her retirement letter. So as the president of that board, I did go through with my colleagues, and we have set the criteria for the job description and the posting, and that went up this week. So if you know individuals who have that special education background, we've also posted it on our website as well. I want to also mention that we had the lockdown drill at Portage High School this morning, and we always include our first responders in that, and then go through a checklist of what has occurred within the drill to give positive feedback, areas where we might have seen something that we could do better or something we could do more collectively. So that was a really good meeting, or great drill this morning and great dialogue. I did want to also share with you, School City of Hammond, the Director of Security and Assessment, Mr. Suarez, he attended our active shooter training February 4th at Willow Creek Middle School, and what he's referring to is that drill. And he sent a letter to me, and I just thought it was very encouraging and something to share with all of you. He said, "Dear Dr. Alanez, I would like to thank you and your staff for the professional and courteous manner I was treated when I observed the active shooter training on February 4th, 2020 at Willow Creek Middle School. I was invited by the Director of Student Achievement and Innovative Programs, Robert Wilson, and the Director of Innovative Learning, Michael D. Pasquale, to observe the students and staff complete the drill. I'm impressed by the manner in which the school staff and students moved to their classroom, cleared the halls, and secured the doors within seconds after the announcement of the commencement of drill. Your security staff was very thorough in completing the active shooter exercise checklist and the debrief afterwards. It was impressive to see how quickly the exercise was completed from beginning to end by the vast amount of students and staff. I plan on taking what I have observed and learned from the active shooter training exercise and implement that in the Hammond schools. Thank you once again for the invitation and hospitality. I'm looking forward to working with you and your staff on any school safety issues. Please feel free to contact me." So again, just great to see the partnership and the collegiality, and you know, when you get another school district that says, "We hear you're doing it well, can we come be part of that?" It's great. And today, again, the feedback from our first responders was amazing as well, so it was a good day. Just something else to mention, as you talk about esports, you talk about these drills, you talk about the academics, the music, all the things that are going on, and you still have to worry, of course, about the safety and security, and that's also something we continue to take pride in and be accountable for.
Thank you, Dr. Alanez. Any items not on the agenda from the board?
I just wanted to make a comment really quick. Dr. Alanez and I had the privilege of attending the State of the City, so I just wanted to say kudos to her and the team. Mr. Wilson was there, Mr. Stevens was there, and a lot of the things that the city's talking about that's back in partnership and doing together, not just with the city, but even with the township. So I just wanted to say kudos to the school district for taking leadership and being a part of what's happening in the township and the city. So thank you so much for your leadership there. And you got it.
I don't know the date.
It's this Saturday.
It's this Saturday?
Yeah, Cabin Fever is this week.
Wow, it came up quick.
I know, Cabin Fever's this week. Don't ask me about time, I just know it's this week. So I just wanted to say that.
And it's always a great time.
I
I
don't
encourage
remember.
everyone
It's
to
on-
go.
I know Melissa Devers Lowry, you definitely have it posted, because that's how I found out about it, to put it on my calendar, so thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Finley. Anybody
Thank you.
else have anything? If not, do we have any public comment forms?
We did not.
We did not, okay. Upcoming meetings are posted. Again, I'll just repeat. Dr. McCormick at River Forest, February 27th at 7 p.m. Encourage everyone to be there if they could. March 9th is our discussion meeting at 5 o'clock here. And then March 16th, our regular board meeting will be taking place at Portage High School East. So make sure you mark that down, because there's always at least one board member who shows up at the wrong place.
I said she's letting us out.
Or
It's
the-
usually me.
Or the attorney.
Or the attorney. It's usually
Normally
me.
the
I
attorney.
don't
Only
admit
that's
it.
normally the attorney.
March 16th, the DHSE.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, and all those on live stream. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Good job.